I look a little...
I'm too tall right now, aren't I?
I look like a drowned rat a little bit.
There we go. But you look...
But like a smart drowned rat.
You look like a beautiful drowned rat.
Thank you so much.
I don't think you look like one at all. You just look like you're a woman on vacation.
On a Friday.
On a Friday who's going to get groceries at an overpriced grocery store for her country home.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
You really are looking like that.
A bonus episode, which is going to be our biggest, longest Aaron Rodgers update of all time.
Unfortunately, or fortunately.
Depending on
who you are.
So we watched the Netflix doc.
Yeah.
Doc, in air quotes.
Emphasis on the air quotes.
Enigma.
Yeah.
Produced by Religion of Sports, directed by Gotham Chopra and Liam Hughes.
Yep.
About Aaron Rodgers.
We did. It's 3 episodes. Why? I don't know. We'll get into it. There's so much happened in this documentary and nothing happened.
That is what blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because as you're watching it, you'll sort of be like, oh, whoa, that's wild. And then you think about it after. And I want to give you credit, Madeline, because when we talked about this doc on our regular weekly episode, you said, I just don't think I'm going to learn anything new.
Yeah.
And I don't think we learned anything new.
No. I don't think I learned anything new. We'll get into our takeaways at the end. But I have takeaways from it, but it more just confirmed what I kind of already suspected.
And I guess maybe I think the new thing that I came away from it feeling was like, kind of sorry for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
It made me sad about him, where it's easier to think of him as like, look at this wacko guy saying crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But you spend that much time with him and you're like, this is kind of a bummer.
It's a bummer.
Like, it doesn't excuse any of the things he's said or done.
No.
But you are like,
yeah. You're like, meh.
But there were also some very funny details.
Yeah. Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
So
let's start episode by episode.
Episode by episode.
Yeah.
First episode. The documentary basically opens with Aaron Rodgers getting this tattoo. I don't know. All I wrote down was dragon tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
He got an infinity symbol in the shape of a dragon on his arm in honor of his number change.
Yeah, because he was in Green Bay, where he played for 19 years.
Yeah.
He was number 12, which I always thought was interesting that Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady had the same number.
Oh, I didn't know Tom Brady was a 12.
Yeah, he was a 12, and I feel like nobody talked about that enough.
Huh, that is kind of weird.
But anyway, not to make it about me.
And you're always bringing it back to Massachusetts in some way.
I will always find a way to bring it back to Tom Brady or Bill Belichick. No, he went from 12 to 8 when he joined the Jets in 2023.
Right. That being the opening shot of the documentary, I was like, I know what we're getting ourselves into right now. Like that... Them using that as like a tone setter. I was like, that's what they're doing. Like they're getting the room tone, when they're like doing a production. Like room tone is Aaron Rodgers getting an infinity symbol 8 dragon tattoo. And I was like,
and that he decided to get that morning.
Correct.
He was like, this morning I woke up and I was like, I'm going to get an infinity symbol dragon 8 tattoo.
Which is the most Aaron Rodgers thing. To start the documentary off with.
So what they also do is my favorite trope in sports media documentaries, or also like from the get-go, it is very clear that Aaron Rodgers is the protagonist.
Yeah.
And the media is the antagonist.
Correct.
That's it.
Correct.
It's not more nuanced than that. Yeah. I don't think they interview anybody except for Aaron Rodgers and his closest friends the entire time.
Correct.
So it's very clear like what we're doing here.
You're always going to get an objective perspective when you're just interviewing Aaron's close childhood friend.
Yeah. Yes. And so what they do is my favorite thing, where it's Aaron Rodgers driving to work or Aaron Rodgers going to the facility. Excuse me. And it is the voices of all the naysayers in the media. Yes. And Madeline, I am such a sicko, and I have worked in this business for so long. I can tell you every single person they quote just by the sound of their voice.
That's crazy.
And my secret dream, it's not secret, it's actually very public. I want more than anything to be the doubting voice in a documentary about an athlete. If I watch one of those and it's my voice being like, I mean, this guy is a whack job, I will know that I've made it.
You've made it. No, that is true. That is the sign that you've made it in sports media.
But now I want you to be there with me. I want it to be the sound of us, two women, talking about how nuts men are as an intro to a documentary.
I would love that. No, it's true. All sports documentaries are the same, and they really do just follow the same format. To me, what I felt like I immediately clocked in the documentary, especially with those shots like that, they're just kind of like going through his life, saying nothing. I'm like, this is a behind the scenes, get ready with me video while a celebrity's preparing to go to an award show. Same energy.
This is a very long get ready with me.
Because you're getting kind of the same information and sound bites. You're getting like a little bit of information from the talent themselves, maybe a little bit of behind the scenes from their team. You're seeing them like make a smoothie.
Yeah. They're always making smoothies.
They're always making smoothies. By the way, this is later in the documentary. I think it's like episode 2 or 3. Yeah. When Aaron Rodgers makes his like breakfast
most
beverage.
Disgusting thing I've ever seen. Did you clock what it was like? Coffee, coconut milk?
Yeah.
No, coconut water from a fresh coconut.
Mushrooms, cacao, I think. And there was in like a brown bag, and it just said like Aaron's on it. And I'm like, yeah, we know it's his. I promise you, no one's concerned.
No one's like, is this your mushroom mud dirt smoothie or mine?
We know it's yours, Aaron.
I also want to say that something that set the tone very much for me when I saw that this was a Religion of Sports Gotham Chopra production in 2015, 2016 maybe, they made or maybe 2017, they made the first one of these, first sort of the media sets a tone as the faceless voices saying you can't do it, they're driving to work, it's first person, you really don't get many other interviews, was the Tom Brady documentary that was Facebook Watch.
Yes. Okay.
And I interviewed Gotham Chopra when they made that doc, and this is how quickly things have moved, that in less than 10 years, at the time I was like, how do you think this is going to be taken seriously as a documentary that Tom Brady is also a producer of, that he has say over without other people's voices, and now we're at a point where this is going to be the most watched thing on Netflix, and I would argue it's like not journalism at all.
No, it's just like a television event,
and we just accept that. It's just like, here you go.
I watched it and I felt the same way being subjected to that documentary that I was subjected to watching the UFC fight on Netflix. Yeah. I'm watching it. I'm watching both cinematic adventures. And I'm like, why am I watching this? Why am I being subjected to this? I'm not learning much. I mean, granted, one was a fight, but like they both felt like the same energy. I'm sitting there being like, why am I sitting here and watching this? And also millions of other people are watching it too.
Well, that's the thing. Like the fact that we're talking about this, I know that some people in sports media, are like, I'm done with Rodgers. I'm bored of this. Why are we still talking about him? To me, this was the 5th watched doc on Netflix when I watched it on Wednesday night. Yeah. This was the thing. Like, we're talking about it because people clearly care about this. Yeah. And I'm interested. Yeah. And it's a cultural thing that is happening that like, he's pretty boring. Like I was pretty bored by the end. Right. But I was like, he clearly still carries so much, like he's not an enigma.
Definitely not an enigma.
But there is intrigue around him.
Definitely intrigue. I think for people who haven't lived in LA, they're like, who is this man? Yeah. Having lived in LA for a long time. That second episode, which we'll get to when he's doing ayahuasca, I was like, this is Los Angeles. I'm like, yeah, he's not an enigma.
Oh my God.
He's just a guy from Venice. Yeah. Like, I mean, let's be real here.
Venice is where he would live.
He would live in Venice.
On the canal.
If you don't know, LA, Venice Beach. It's kind of a little bit more, it's like bougie granola.
Bougie granola.
Bougie granola.
Yeah, that's a $15 bag of granola.
Maybe 20.
Yeah, 20.
20.
Anyways. So in the first one, I think it was called like Becoming. And it's when he tears his ACL in the first game of the 2023 season last year for the Jets. And it's basically him grieving that season of his career, as they tell you that he was a guy from Chico, California. Yeah. He came from a conservative family. He went to play junior college because he didn't get recruited D1. Then he went to Cal where he played D1. Then he went to the draft. He fell to the 24th pick in the draft, which surprised him, which he called an ego death.
How many times did he say ego death in that documentary?
Ego death is something that comes up again and again and again. And Aaron is like, clearly he heard that and just latched onto it. And something too, he goes in to give a speech to the locker room, like when he can finally walk on crutches after maybe like 3 weeks, and he swears every other word is the F word in that speech. It was like a parody of someone trying to give a locker room speech.
Correct. He needs like some pep talk media training or something,
big time.
But the man says the phrase ego death so many times, and I still don't even understand what it is. What does it mean? You're just being kind of vulnerable?
I think it's like someone brought you back down to earth. Someone checked you. Someone was like, check yourself, man. Like you're, humble. He was like, I was humbled. But he wasn't.
He wasn't. No. I do have a couple of things I want to talk about from the first episode that were just small things. I don't know if you clocked to these either, but there's a scene early on when he's going into like, I don't know if it's a treatment facility, like not rehab. I mean like a fix your ankle facility, whatever, a bougie doctor's office place. And he's about to go into like a hyperbaric chamber, and there's art on the walls. Did you notice this?
Is it the lion?
The lion and the dolphin?
I thought that was at his house.
Oh, was that at his house? Okay.
I have
that might have been. I wrote Aaron. I wrote.
I knew you would have it.
I wrote lion and dolphin art when he goes into hyperbaric chamber reminds me of Lisa Frank.
Yes.
Or
the Lisa Frank multicolored trapper keepers, from third grade.
The dolphin one especially. Or have you ever been to the ArcLight movie theater in LA?
No.
R.I.P. If you know, you know. Also niche LA. It's the best movie theater in the world.
Okay.
It is. It's the best. It's elite. But they have these art exhibitions.
Okay.
And it's the ugliest art you've ever seen in your life. And I'm like, who buys this art? Who buys it? Aaron Rodgers. That art, I'm like, I feel like he went to a movie at ArcLight in like the Valley or something before they closed, and was like, I'm buying that lion art. Like,
I do know that. I have friends who were very sad when that
it's the best.
closed.
They're the best movie theaters. That art is either Lisa Frank pieces or art that was sold at ArcLight.
I have written down in my notes, Madeline, what the F are the lion and dolphin paintings on his wall?
They're so big and they're so prominent. That was such a choice.
It looks like something like a family friend makes, and they like when they're 21 and thinks they're going to be an artist and gives to your parents, and they're like,
yes.
And Aaron hangs them up. So basically, like, there's a scene where he's on a private plane when they're going to the Chiefs game, I think. I think they're going just to play the Chiefs, and he's hurt already. And some woman that they never address is massaging his ankle. They like don't show her face.
Well, no, but I look her up.
Is she the same one later in the later episodes?
Yes. Okay. She's I believe she is Julianne Hough's hairstylist. Found her Instagram. She's got a lot of followers.
Of course she is.
But
so they're on the plane and he's doing a crossword.
Already laughing.
He's doing a crossword. The funniest part, they show him, you can't see what the clue to the crossword is, but it's a 4 square clue on a down, and he just writes in NASA. And I was like, and then he starts explaining math. He's literally explaining math. He's like, well, football's just a game of percentages. You can, if you take the slant route, it's a 30% chance. You could do the check down 90%, or you could really air it out. And I was just like, oh my God, this is like the most annoying guy at a party. Aaron Rodgers, if he had, he did go to college, but if he had gone to like my small liberal arts college, would have been the guy who brought out the guitar to play Wagon Wheel.
Oh, yes.
Because he does that in the doc. He does that. I don't know if he's playing Wagon Wheel, but he's got that guitar out.
Oh my God.
It's like,
yes. No, that is spot on. The thing that struck me the most about that airplane scene was the amount of
private
footage.
Jet.
It's a private jet.
Yeah.
The amount of footage of his foot, his exposed toes. Who needs to see a man's feet ever? But let alone on a television. I was like, did Quentin Tarantino direct this movie? This is bonus footage from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And he was like, love those scenes with Margaret Qualley's feet. I'm going to work on this religion and sports documentary about Aaron Rodgers.
Oh my God.
Tell me that's not, I was like, this is Quentin Tarantino core. The foot shots.
Either that or Rex Ryan, the longtime NFL coach who famously has a foot fetish.
What?
Oh yeah. He like has talked about it on ESPN. Sports is so weird.
Okay.
Sports is,
I didn't need to know that. And
well, anyway,
now
I'm just
I know
saying,
it.
he was probably really enjoying this talk because I had the same feeling. I was like, this foot is so big on my television.
And it was in the documentary so many times.
I was also like, don't put that out there for free, Aaron.
Yeah.
You can make some real money
Make
on
some
that.
money on your toes, Aaron. Free feet, no free feet pics.
No free feet pics.
No. Blur it out.
Yeah, so basically, I think my takeaway from the first episode where he's like so upset about his foot, and I get it. I get it. I also think
it sucks. That's a bummer.
I think ultimately Aaron's 40, 41 at this point. I think it's ultimately a documentary. Like if you take him as a sort of lightning rod figure out of it, at its core, this is a doc about a guy who has been an athlete his whole life as his identity,
right?
Just completely unable to let go, and it's so difficult to retire as an athlete, and people don't know what to do with themselves, and that part I really empathize with.
It's challenging
because he was like this is grief, and like he can't let himself retire, it seems, because he thinks he can still do it, but it's just like that's where it gets sort of painful and sad, and you're like, oh my God. And like he vacillates between being like, I want to be more than a football player. And then by the end of the doc, he's like, I'm happy I'm a football player. And then he's like, but I have to stop being a football player. And it's just like a man in crisis over his identity.
Correct. He's going through it. Yeah.
He's going through it.
He's going through it. The last thing I wanted to say about the first episode, I don't know if you clocked this. There's a scene at his home in his kitchen. There's a blender on the counter. You have this blender. It's that black little small.
The Beast blender?
It's like a little twisty one.
Yeah.
He has that. I wrote down, Charlotte has the same blender, exclamation point.
Oh my God, I missed that.
I just had to say that. That is
Madeline,
no critical thought there. I just needed to say
blender
that.
Sucks.
Oh,
he probably got it this for free. Blender. I call it the Mr. Beast, even though it's the Beast. Because like it when you put all the frozen stuff in, then you have to flip it over.
Yeah.
And then, but all of the frozen stuff is stuck to the top.
Oh,
and then you try to get it back down, and then like the blades don't blend. And so you're constantly like opening it, taking it, shaking it, putting it back on. But then it's actually really nice because you can just drink the smoothie out of the blender.
You should honestly just get a NutriBullet.
We need that. I want to buy a Vitamix.
We have a Vitamix.
Do you?
It's the best purchase.
They have refurbished ones you can get. They're so expensive.
No, it is worth every penny. Okay. No. We don't have like the fanciest one. We just have a basic one. That Vitamix changed my life. It's incredible.
We're gonna have to do it.
I feel like a professional smoothie maker.
Once the sports gossip show pops off, I'm gonna buy myself a Vitamix.
We should. And then we'll blend a smoothie on. Well, like last when we were talking about the Erewhon smoothie, we can recreate D'Angelo Russell's
oh my God.
Lakers smoothie.
There you go.
There we go. With the Vitamix.
So the second episode, I would say, Madeline, is where things actually happen.
This is where the meat of the story is.
It opens with Aaron Rodgers going hiking with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. when RFK is running for president. And shortly thereafter asks Aaron Rodgers to be his running mate. And do you remember when they tweeted this picture out this summer?
Oh yeah.
So you see footage of someone taking the picture of them hiking together.
Yeah, right.
And Aaron's like, I became so disillusioned by politics. Like it's two-party system that's really just one party. I didn't feel excited by politics until you started running for president. And also like, this system in the US is clearly broken.
Correct.
However, I don't know that RFK Jr., who wants to take away the polio vaccine, is like the savior.
And I certainly don't think that Aaron Rodgers, as his running mate, we know how this all obviously shook out, was going to be the right solution either. Like, that's even worse.
That's terrifying.
My favorite thing that he says is he's talking about his interest in politics. And he says, I got into politics when I was a sophomore in high school. So you're telling me you're just like a 15-year-old boy who found it so cool to be like, I'm going to impress the ladies and my kids at my school with random political facts, and I sound really smart. Like I can just like see the vision. Can't you see it?
I can totally see it.
Can't you see it?
But then what he says is, your uncle is what got me into politics.
I forgot about that.
By that he means the John F. Kennedy assassination in the 1960s is what got him into politics, because he's a conspiracy theorist who believes that the way the government portrayed it to have gone down is not how it went down. Right. Which RFK Jr. seems to also kind of believe.
Correct.
And Aaron says...
Which they both definitely say in the documentary.
Aaron says that was when I started pulling the veil back, which is basically when I started not believing anything I read. And like, if you're a conspiracy theorist, like if you believe this stuff, you can't really believe anything because the bottom falls out completely. You don't trust any facts.
Yeah.
Aaron said, people like Mike McCarthy, the former coach of the Green Bay Packers, who now coaches the Cowboys, was like, Aaron really does his own research.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, no, he doesn't.
No. And also, like, what is this research? What is he reading?
Like the
blog?
redacted CIA report that nobody's access
I'm also
to?
like, he's probably looking at blogs that are weirdly formatted with a bunch of pop-up ads that are going to cause viruses on your computer.
Yes.
That's what he's reading.
And what my takeaway from like the political, he was like, we'll get into the family stuff, but he's like, he doesn't agree with his family about anything, but then he keeps going, well, my dad didn't believe in vaccines, so I don't believe in vaccines.
Right.
And it's like, that's the one thing you chose to like take away. But I wrote down, Madeline, everybody keeps talking about how smart he is in the doc. And I wrote down that Aaron Rodgers is smart, but not quite smart enough to know he's not smart enough to be talking about the things he's talking about. He's like, and I'm the only one who can crack the code to the universe. It's like a freshman in college, high on weed for one of the first times, being like, wait, so I actually think I understand the pyramids. That's what he sounds like the whole time.
Correct. I would even take it a step further and add on to it that part of the problem here, which we've talked about, I think, in previous episodes, is that if you look at the people who are surrounding him, they're all glorified assistants, I always say.
Yeah.
His childhood friends, like one of them is his caddy at that golf tournament for 20 years or whatever they say. He's surrounded by people who are yes men.
Yeah.
And so that's only fueling him thinking he's a genius.
Right.
So it's not helping the situation.
Not at all.
It's probably making it worse for him and everyone around him.
Totally.
Because no one's pushing back. I mean,
irresponsible.
Even scenes with his doctor when he's talking about his Achilles injury, and the doctors are like, well, I don't think you're ready to play. And he's like, I'll be ready in a week. I'm going to practice.
He's like, I'm playing.
And they're like, okay. I think Aaron Rodgers needs some no men.
Yes.
He needs some no men.
Some
people telling him no. No, Aaron, you can't have this concoction every day as your coffee with all this stuff.
This is gross, Aaron.
This is gross. Just have some tea or coffee.
Also,
or even some water.
The shots of Robert Saleh, the former head coach of the Jets, like anytime they cut to him in any of these football behind the scenes footage, just look like a broken man. I hope for his sake that when they finally fired him, even though he was clearly not the problem for the Jets, that he felt peace.
I'm sure he felt peace.
I really hope so.
He definitely felt peace. Well, Aaron Rodgers certainly felt peace when he took us on a true spiritual journey to Costa Rica in the bulk of that episode. Before getting into everything that happened on that ayahuasca trip, literally, did you feel, okay, when they were doing these talking head interviews with him and he's like in a tropical setting?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I'm assuming they were shot in Costa Rica when they did this. He's being interviewed and they like cut back to this interview. My first thought was it looks like the interview footage they do with models who are in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue.
Yes.
They're always in the jungle. Like it's like mid shot and they're
God.
Shooting Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. That's what that was. Aaron Rodgers was just in the Sports Illustrated
They should have gotten
issue.
him for swimsuit.
I mean, honestly. He's a fit guy. I mean,
also looks like I don't watch Survivor, but it looked like a Survivor interview.
Yes.
Like I've seen, for 40 years now we've seen these things.
As a Survivor fan, yes, correct.
Right?
Yes.
They're in the jungle wearing like
correct.
a puka shell necklace and a tank top.
Yes. I think the trailer and the media, I guess I would say, make it out to be
the antagonist.
The
bad guys.
Not to defend Aaron Rodgers, but I'm like, you go into this documentary and being like, oh, there's going to be some crazy stuff happening. And then I'm like, he just goes and does ayahuasca and is playing guitar and kind of going through a spiritual journey. Yeah. Like, okay. Sure. And?
Right.
Have you been to LA?
Clearly, no.
Hello. I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't really surprised by anything he did.
Yeah. It also, I wrote down... I don't really know what I was referring to here in my notes. I wrote down it reminds me of Industry, the HBO show.
How so?
Because did you watch Industry?
I've seen a little bit of it.
There's a scene where this like disgraced tech CEO goes and does ayahuasca.
Oh, okay.
And they portrayed it really like much better. That it was much more interesting than the way they filmed this.
Yeah.
But like there's a young banker who goes and does it with him, and it like changes his life, and he gets out of the financial like so. It's just like, because nobody who had a counter view to him was interviewed at all.
Yeah.
There was also no, facts in the whole thing. There was no doctor or no like cultural expert on ayahuasca being like, here's how it's traditionally used. Yes. Here's what's happening here. Here is the, the full story of like what this kind of tourism is. Like you have no context for any of it.
No.
So it's just Aaron Rodgers sitting there like talking about his family, and then you see him go into a sweat tent. And it's also just a guy who, he was like at one point, I'm so glad my parents thought I was soft growing up.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that's the root of all of this.
Yeah.
He's like, it keeps coming back to his childhood, and you're like, but you don't learn anything. He doesn't tell you anything specific that happened.
No, all you know about his upbringing is that his parents seem to be much more religious and, I'm assuming, conservative than he would like to be, and that he's pushing back against that, and that his family doesn't seem to like his quote unquote alternative lifestyle.
Yeah,
that's what I gathered. And then wait, the thing we didn't talk about the family yet is they address his brother, who was on The Bachelorette, one of those. And there's a scene where they're doing a hometown date, and they leave 2 chairs open for Aaron Rodgers and, I don't know,
I guess it was Olivia Munn at the time?
Olivia Munn.
Which is also, they weren't married. That's like a wild thing to do.
Right. And like, he's like, I wasn't even asked to be on The Bachelor.
She's like, it was the middle of the season. How was I supposed to be there?
Yeah, but there seems to be like a lot of unfinished business with the brother too.
Yeah, because
the family in general, but also his brother.
Because Jordon, this was the first time we'd heard that Aaron Rodgers doesn't talk to his family.
Yeah, right.
When we see 2 empty seats. And I know this because when I worked at USA Today, I was like, I'm going to blog Jordan Rodgers being on The Bachelor as if it were the NFL.
Amazing.
And so that's like, and then I recapped The Bachelor for years after that, but it was The Bachelorette, and it was JoJo's season. And I thought it was funny that here's this, I thought he was going to get kicked off, and Jordan Rodgers ends up winning it. They're married now.
Yeah, right.
He's an analyst on ESPN, the SEC network.
Crazy.
And I was just like, oh, funny. Like, maybe we'll see Aaron Rodgers here. And then it got like deeper, and I was still writing about this. And then he kept going. And I was like, oh my God, this dude is like, they don't talk. And it just like blew up as this massive story.
Yeah. So again, the ayahuasca episode was the most interesting and had the most meat in it. That to me felt like Aaron Rodgers in his element.
Yes.
I was like, people make fun of him, and like, yes, this man, you know how we feel about him.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is who this man is. That felt like the most honest episode. And I learned the most about him, or I didn't even learn anything. I think it just confirmed what I thought about him. And I was like, this is just who he is.
Yeah.
This is who he is. And he seems to be going through it.
I think he is just a very defensive narcissist.
Yeah.
And
says a lot of words.
My therapist always says that there's like malicious narcissists and then clumsy narcissists, where it's like they're, like the malicious, it's like they really they're manipulative, they mean to hurt you, and then clumsy ones where it's like they don't really know what they're doing, but they can't get out of their own way, and they're focused on themselves, and they make everyone's life miserable.
Yes.
Kind of feels like Aaron Rodgers might be a clumsy narcissist.
Yes. I think that's spot on.
So I feel like, too, he just is like obsessed with figuring himself out and gets into these dangerous things. The thing, like, he does spread these lies, though, in this documentary about vaccines still, about, about not lies about ayahuasca, but like telling everybody to do it in a way where I'm like, without any counter voice in here, this is very dangerous. Like, someone's going to watch this and be like, well, I'm not getting that vaccine.
Right.
I'm not going to immunize my kids, which was the whole like.
Right.
So it's like, he's a clumsy narcissist, but he's like, it's clearly
there's no fact checking,
capable of doing a lot of harm.
Yeah. And there's no fact checking, and there's no there was no counter opinions whatsoever to anything he was saying. He just could say whatever he wanted.
And that's why it was so boring. There was no tension.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, yes.
It was just like, here's what Aaron thinks about everything, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. No, it's true.
And they interviewed like Matt LaFleur, as coach of the Green Bay Pack. Like, clearly people who couldn't say what their full thoughts about everything.
Yeah.
Because they were doing it for Aaron.
Right.
He also
It's
goes
an
to
Aaron puff piece.
Yeah. And he goes to visit Brett Favre, who was the quarterback in
that.
Green Bay before when Aaron got drafted as his backup.
Yes.
And
This is in
Brett
episode
Favre is embroiled in like a massive fraud case.
Correct. And that is not discussed.
At all. Brett Favre took from the welfare
Crazy
system. I mean, like it Google it, look at all.
It's horrible.
It's
It's horrible.
He
It's
did allegedly did horrific things.
Yes.
If this is all true.
Yes. And that was not
he's
addressed.
Running a smear campaign against the reporter in Mississippi who reported it.
And none of it's addressed. I'm not saying they need to like go on a whole tangent about Brett Favre, but it's like there's just no counter opinions or fact checking happening whatsoever to any of the scenes. Jumping ahead, obviously now we're talking about episode 3. Yeah. The Brett Favre thing kind of like kicks it off. He's at one point he's home in Malibu, and I'm like, this man, again, I really think what's going on here is he's not fit to be a Northeastern guy.
You're so right.
He needs to get traded to the Chargers. Like, this man belongs in California. He has his house in Malibu, looks really nice on the beach. He seems to be the most comfortable there, hanging out with his friends, playing, strumming that guitar.
Yeah.
He likes to go to that golf charity thing in Lake Tahoe. He says he does it every year. It's nostalgic
He's
for him.
from California.
From California. Trade this man to the Chargers. Let him finish out his career. I bet he'll play better. I'm telling you, this man.
It's so simple.
This man was cutting a coconut open and making coconut water in New Jersey.
In Montclair, New Jersey, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
I think it's Montclair.
I have family from Montclair. Yes. Yeah. I think it's Montclair.
I think I know exactly what route he took to get to the
I know.
Stadium.
He's cutting a coconut in New Jersey. That is wrong.
That made me
That is
sad.
wrong. That is wrong.
As someone who's very Northeast, I saw that and I was
wrong.
like, this feels like cultural appropriation to be doing this in the Northeast.
Like, I'm not
like I would never
Yeah,
dare to cut open a real coconut.
Yeah.
I would buy the Harmless Harvest.
Exactly. Correct.
And
He
pour it
cut
into
open
a
a.
smoothie.
To me, what I felt like, again, I feel like Aaron Rodgers would approve of what I'm about to say,
Uh-oh.
is you know how in astrology there's like geographic astrology, like you put in your birth chart information
And where you were born.
where you're born, and like it kind of shows on a globe where you should live, sort of, or like where you thrive
No.
the most. We
I've
should
never
do this
done
for
this.
Aaron Rodgers and see where his points are, because I bet you his I don't even know, nodes, I don't know, whatever they're called, are not in the Northeast.
Okay. I'm gonna see if I can.
Astrocartography. That's
my
what it's
God.
called.
Hold
Let
on.
me look up his birthday. We don't know what time he was born.
That's okay.
Okay, he was born in Chico, California, December 2nd, 1983. Okay, here we go. I have it.
Okay.
Again, we don't have his
Time of birth.
Time of birth. Can I zoom in on this thing?
Whoa, that is a map with a lot of lines on
Okay,
it.
it's basically a map. If you don't know what this, I do not know how to read these, but I do know that.
So what is it?
Oh, okay.
What?
Again, we don't know his time of birth.
Okay.
But just based on his birthday,
Yeah.
he has some lines going through California. I mean, it's more Northern California, like San Jose, San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
But he has this line. I think it's like one of the main lines is almost right through LA. And then if you look at his lines on the East Coast,
Very weak.
nothing is going through the -1 going through like Philly.
What about Green Bay? There seems to be a stronger line going through the Midwest.
There are, yeah.
Yeah, he should never have gone to New York astrologically.
He
should
should have
never have gone to the
New York.
Jets. For a guy who you'd think would like consult a birth chart before
Yes.
picking a team, Aaron
Yes.
Rodgers astrologically should never have played football in New York.
No, never.
I'm so
Never.
glad you knew to do this. It solves the whole thing.
It solves it. Wait, I'm
Just
looking
like
up.
Joe Burrow's Saturn was in return, which explains everything that's been going on with him.
Yes. Okay. I'm not an astrologer, but his sun line, I don't know what you call it, that's the one that's through Sacramento, San Francisco, San Jose. It is, you head to those locations to experience a massive boost of self-confidence and generally live your best life. Should he have played for the 49ers?
Well, he wanted them to draft him, but they didn't. They took Alex Smith over him.
There we
Who-
go.
And Rodgers ended up being a better quarterback.
Based on his astrocartography, again, a quick peruse, a lot of his main lines are going through near Green Bay, which feels right, California. Nothing's really going through the Northeast.
No,
they're kind of like in the ocean. I don't know.
Astrologically, this man should not have ever gone to the Jets. And I can't believe he didn't consult his birth chart before realizing that geographically this was never going to work.
It was never going to work. He's not in the flow.
He is not in the flow.
He's more in the flow on the West Coast, which is why he should have been traded to the Chargers.
He comes to New York. I mean, the Chargers they don't need him.
Well, okay, but
okay, sorry.
Go with my vibes.
Sorry, the Rams.
Okay, the Rams. I don't care, whatever.
They could have two old quarterbacks, Matt Stafford and so
whatever.
Yes. I also think something that this doc did not address at all was they made Aaron Rodgers seem like very harmless and like, I'm just telling my side of the story. This man has gone on Tucker Carlson's show. That he went on the Aubrey Marcus podcast. He has talked about denying Sandy Hook, or it came out that someone said that and he was like, no, I didn't, and then put out a statement that said, I never said it didn't happen, which is not saying that he doesn't believe conspiracy theories.
Right.
He's saying, I mean, it's just like all of it is so bad. And he was like, when I found my voice, when I realized I had a voice in the media, I really liked it. This is why this man is never going to go away.
No.
He said on Pat McAfee, when I retire, I'm going to go away. And when we put that clip out, someone responded and was like, Aaron Rodgers is the guy in the corner telling everyone to look at him and then saying, don't look at me. And it's like, that's what it is. Like, if he made this doc, and I said this before we watched it, he will never go away.
Yeah.
He loves attention.
Yeah.
He feels, I think part of it is he's trying to figure himself out. So when people say things about him, I think it really rattles him because like, he's like, I don't know who I am. Is that true? He keeps saying, who am I?
Right.
And it's like, I don't know, man, but don't go on these podcasts and say things that are like dangerous.
Yes. Yeah.
It's pretty simple. Don't do it. Stop doing it.
It's not complicated. It's not complicated. I think our biggest hope for Aaron Rodgers when he does retire, which again, we hope he never does, but if that day comes, I think our biggest hope for him is that he doesn't start a podcast, but maybe he starts a newsletter a la Goop, but for his interests. Like just kind of a Goop-esque lifestyle. It's like about fitness, nutrition.
Stay away from anything real.
Yeah.
Like sell us,
Protein
mushroom
powder.
supplements.
Yes. Sell us your coffee blend.
Sell us your coffee blend.
Aaron's coffee blend in a bag, in the paper bag.
Stick to commerce. E-commerce.
Yes. D2C.
Don't tell us anything you're thinking.
D2C.
D2C.
D2C, Aaron.
D2C. I mean, I think like it's pretty funny too, just like the concept of this whole thing, because clearly they started filming it in anticipation of him having a comeback season in 2024.
Yeah.
And then the Jets won only 3 games.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel, and are knocked out of the playoffs. And I feel like they released it now. Like the ending, it doesn't end.
It doesn't end. It's
He's just
very
like,
anticlimactic.
maybe I'll retire. Maybe I won't. And winks at the camera. And you're like, what the, like what?
It says nothing.
And so they had to put it out now because it won't be relevant any other time. First of all, if he retires, none of this is relevant.
Correct.
They should do it. They'll probably just do a new doc, which is going to be a pain in the ass. And we are not going to watch that one.
No.
But like, it's so, there's no tension and it's so anticlimactic. And it's like, who cares?
Right.
And it's boring because like they just sucked this season.
Yeah.
So they had all this footage and just tossed it together, made it way too long, gave it to Netflix, didn't say anything.
Right.
You learn nothing. And it's the 5th most watched. It's in the top 10 on Netflix.
Maybe it just says more about us as a society than it does about Aaron Rodgers.
Big time.
Why are we all watching it? That's the bigger question that needs to be answered. And I don't think I'm smart enough
Why are we
to.
all, I think you are.
You think? I think we're watching it. Well, I'm watching it because I knew we were going to recap this.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have watched it otherwise. Maybe. I would have maybe watched a little bit of the second episode when he's doing ayahuasca. I think because we live in such polarizing times, politically, culturally, Aaron Rodgers is a very polarizing figure. And so I think people are inherently fascinated by people who reject the status quo, say things that are dangerous, not true, factually incorrect, kind of crazy at times. And so people are like, I got to understand who this person is.
Yeah.
Who would say these things?
Yeah.
They want to listen to like things that go against the grain.
Yeah. Challenge authority.
Challenge authority. Exactly.
Even though these people are authority.
Correct.
And have a lot of money.
And have a lot of power.
And ton of power, don't represent like true working people.
Correct.
And I think too, I think all of that is exactly spot on, first of all. So you are smart enough. You're more than smart enough to do this. Secondly, I think for me, it's also just like, as someone who's been in media for so long and like journalism, it felt, my takeaways ended up being like more meta about the state of journalism and like where standards are and how Netflix and these streaming services really just care about access.
Yeah.
And like there were a bunch of the Untold series, like a lot of stuff in those don't go checked because they don't want to scare the people off. They want access to people more than they want like the truth of things.
Yeah.
And so with something like this, it's like, sure, we'll do whatever you need as long as we have access to you.
Yeah.
Because that's what they think people want. And that's what people do want.
I think people do want it.
And that's why it's such a bummer, because like this doesn't question anything or doesn't hold Aaron accountable to anything.
Right.
And so he can do it. And he feels fine about it. And he knows there won't be like serious headlines generated because he says nothing.
Right.
But also like, it is such a bummer to me as someone who like, I do love well-made docs.
Yeah.
That like, those are not going to get made because no one's going to agree to them because they know that these kind of puff pieces are possible. And you don't have to hold anyone's feet to the fire to make them.
I mean, let's look at The Last Dance, which I would argue is the complete opposite of that. I feel like you get the entertainment factor, the tension, and I feel like they're asking these players real questions and they're getting honest answers, but they're also getting some pushback. I mean, sure, you could say it's kind of a puff piece for Michael Jordan in some ways, sure. But I do feel like at least looking at that, which is again an extreme opposite end documentary.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, that at least had like some tension.
Yeah.
It felt a little bit more honest, and I learned new things watching that documentary.
It was explosive.
Yes.
I know Jason Hayer, the director of The Last Dance, and I've talked to him about it, and he was like, the fallout from that was way more than he ever expected. Like everyone got mad about everything, and it's because like, yes, they needed Jordan's sign off,
right?
But they still put in other people, and it was so much more interesting.
Yeah. I feel like actually...
But this is also probably doing the same numbers.
I know. And I do feel like my biggest takeaway from this documentary, one, is that I didn't learn anything new about Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going through it. I'm empathetic to that fact, but I did not learn anything new about him or how he operates or what he thinks. Everything, I was like, this all tracks. And I think thinking bigger picture, what I learned from it is that we've lost the plot on media literacy.
Yeah.
We've lost the plot, guys.
It's
Where's
over.
our journalism 101?
It's over. Also,
we've lost the plot.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
No.
It's like just being a contrarian is not interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Is another thing that we learned.
Right.
It's very boring. It's like, okay. I mean, I just like got the vibe. On some level, it's also just a man like grappling with his own mortality for 3 episodes.
I learned the same amount of information in the 3 hours of this documentary that I do from when someone I went to high school with reposts an inspirational quote on their Instagram story.
Yes.
I read it. I'm like, okay, I learned, I get it. And then I move on and forget about it.
He reminds me of one of those influencers who's like at the gym with headphones on, talking to their camera, being like, if you don't push yourself, if you don't do the scary thing, you're never going to grow. And it has like 100,000 likes and like 300,000 shares. And I'm like, are we all just this dumb?
Yeah.
Is this what
We've lost the plot.
But also, like, not are we just this dumb? Do we all need this hope this much because all of the systems around us have failed? If you want to go there.
You might be right. That's another conversation.
I also think that just like ignoring something like this, which I think a lot of people are like, just don't watch it. Don't give him the airtime.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks that that's dangerous too, because other people are not going to ignore it.
Right.
And then there's no one saying, hey, none of this is true.
Yeah, right.
So that's us.
Yeah. And that's our TED Talk.
And thank you for coming to our TED Talk. We should do a TED Talk.
We should. We could do it on sports gossip.
Yeah.
Well, we could 100% do a TED Talk on how sports gossip says more about culture than like many other topics.
Any kind of sports media.
Any other sports. Yeah. Correct. We could do
we
30
really
minutes.
We could do media literacy through sports gossip.
New online course.
Yeah. Subscribe to our online course.
Yeah. We're going to be scammy
we'll
too.
Be grifters.
Oh, man. Well, I have nothing else to say.
Same.
If you made it this far, thank you. As always, please rate, review, like, subscribe. Share this with your friends.
And hopefully we watch 3 hours of nothing so that you don't have to.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.